Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of BetTalker. Today we have Jenny Ramstedt.
Yes, good.
Almost, not almost. And Jenny always have been an amazing supporter of BetBlocker. She originally was the person that helped us translate it to Swedish, which is a very important language. And Jenny, I would like, for those people that they don't know you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you end up in Malta working for the gambling industry?
Yes, of course. And it's nice to see you. It's always a highlight when we cross paths, wherever it is, in Malta or like on conferences. But no, I've been like many others. I just basically ended up in the industry by chance. But actually a computer engineer from the beginning. So I was working on the back end of things. And then
Okay.
I was looking for a job. I wanted to move to Spain. I wanted to move to Barcelona, and there were no jobs at the time apart from customer support. And then I found this other sector that was called online gambling. I thought like, oh, this is what I want to do. So I tried to get a job there on the product side, but they said, no, you need gambling experience. I was like, okay. So then I went and looked in Stockholm where I was living, and I wanted to move from because they closed down our Barcelona office there, where I was working for a natural language company. And then I looked for where can I find a job, and then I went basically to the phone book and it was like A nothing, B bets on. Oh, that looks nice. So then I applied for a job there, and I started somewhere around the BetSafe migration. And then there was some decisions that everyone on the more product manager side was supposed to move to Malta, and I said no. And very often, the guy that was my manager then, he sometimes points out that you remember when you said no to Malta about 12 years ago. And then I said, you can try it. Here's 3 months in an apartment. Bring that's now my husband, see if you like it or not. And now I'm still here. So it's his fault. That's Jesper Hellberg.
Okay.
He's driving a UX studio now, but no, his fault. And then I was working on the platform bets on the technical things. So in a way, I came from the backside of the industry. So even looking at responsible gaming, the first things I did was to just close if an account needed to be closed. And we talked about this before. I have to be a little bit careful on technical details, but more or less, if a customer wants to close an account, the type of personality they want to see a lot of calculations usually. So that was getting to know gamblers from a different side as well. And
Mhm.
then I moved on to some other more commercial roles. So now I'm in sales, but not exactly gaming, but we do QA for different gaming sites.
Were you working
Yeah,
for a reactivation company or something like that?
I was working with a CRM company. So this was something, I'm not sure if we met around that time, but it was one of the things that we did discuss a lot was that when Spain had a very good idea though, but that you were supposed to call people to get that instant stop. I was
Mhm.
working for a call out service provider that could do automated calls. So then we were definitely discussing that bit. But I
I
think we met before that as well.
I
But this was
think
something that we discussed.
I think that was 2018 or something, sort of
Yeah, yeah,
calls,
yeah,
and I think it was like
yeah,
sort of safety calls
yeah,
or something like that.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
I think
And it
I
wasn't.
I remember.
I don't know what happened to that rule in Spain, but it was both Spain and the UK, I think. But it was a good rule that you're supposed to, if you could see, get warning signals on some behavior. I think you're supposed to get simply to call that person. And I don't remember what the trigger was supposed to be, but it wasn't a bad idea. But then on the other hand, it's something that's very difficult, of course, because you need people to actually call. And most
That's
likely they would not answer. So the idea was as well that we would have a service that would call and then you could call back because it would still be disruptive for the player. But then, yeah,
but I suppose that at some level that's the goal, to disrupt.
Mm,
behavior that is harmful
mm.
on real time. But the problem is that these days, even back then, you know people really avoid a phone call. So if you see a number
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
don't know, you're not going to pick it up because it's probably
no,
someone trying to sell you some insurance,
yeah,
or not even that.
yeah,
People, they just worried
yeah,
these days to be scam. Okay, because I
yeah,
don't know, like 10 years ago, you may have a
yeah,
conversation on the phone. Now oh, maybe someone is
yeah.
going to clone my voice to do
It's
something.
always that. Yeah, and as well, you have to be super careful as well if you're a gaming company, because if you don't have the correct data or maybe an old phone number, if you call someone, you have that element as well. It's, of course, with some people, you would have their correct phone number, but it's not always that you know these things as well. So it's a bit dangerous when it comes to data protection.
It's really interesting what you say, because when I moved from Malta to Spain, I got a phone number, and it seems that this number was from another person before.
Uh,
And I can still get random calls like 3 years later, and I don't want to change my number again because I already given it
no.
to a lot of people. So it's a bit like, oh man, it's yes,
Yeah.
phone numbers are tricky. For what gambling companies have you worked apart from Betson?
So NetEnt on the provider side.
Nothing.
So
Okay,
that's
yeah,
two of the big ones. And then I worked for Viraya that did the CRM things. And
yeah.
then I was starting to do sales. So then, of course, I get to know a lot of different companies on the island because we were working with, we had some customers. We had video slots and all the gig brands and bets on and a lot of these customers. And that was the same at when I was at NetEnt. I was managing both the what you call the WLA, so
Uh-huh.
Norsk Tipping, these guys are signing on Veikkaus, the Finnish state, and then some of the other big ones like Kindred, Leo Vegas. So then you quickly get to know a little bit about it, but you never get to know the things that, I mean, the most fun in many ways was to work on the platform with the tech stuff at Betsson, because that's when you learn like all of the different journeys. So then my team was responsible for both responsible gaming things as well, but registration and sort of the player part of everything. So yeah, and now when I work at Testa, it's also something where I work with sales, but you work with a lot of different companies. So and I think one thing that's new for me with Testa is that we also work with affiliates. That's something I haven't worked with a lot in gaming at all. I've done translations as well for affiliate companies, but not a lot. And now we can also work with those and work a little bit with other providers, because you can basically do testing everywhere. And I've yet to come up with a good project for responsible gaming there as well. I think we will eventually. I was speaking to another friend of, I think you met her as well, but Lisbeth Ost, that work with the
Yes,
sustainability questions,
yes.
to see what we can do. Because basically, if you have people on the ground somewhere, there are a lot of interesting things that you can do. You can make sure that responsible gaming tools work, but you can also compare them and what it looks like. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun what I do now. Yeah, I mean, especially it's fun to see the reports, what the customers do. I mean, testing in every place and comparing different sites is really interesting. And you can do things like, you remember that video slot had this case where, which was pretty unfair, but when they had someone logging in from Germany to the Dutch site, and then they got a lot of fine.
Mm,
These are things that we can test, for example. So like
okay,
mystery shoppers.
it's really it's really interesting, because I think something that would be really interesting is to do safer gambling mystery shopping.
Yeah, yeah,
The thing about this is that traditionally this hasn't been done properly. Why? Because
no,
you have to play
yeah,
to
exactly.
be on real time, real money. Because if it's a
Yeah,
dummy account, people, they can see that most of the
yeah,
time. You can see that it's a dummy account.
yeah,
So I don't really know about any company that does proper safer gambling testing. Even all those certifications that they
yeah,
were out there before, it's all in paper. You don't get a person,
yeah,
okay, I'm playing for 5 hours. What's going
yeah,
on? Do I get the pop up? Because even when you work on safer gambling, okay, you get the demo on how the pop up
yeah,
looks like, but I mean, I think maybe once, I had a session open for 180
yeah,
minutes to see with their reminder on the phone to see if the
yeah,
time pop up was. But it's something that it's, I think, is
yeah,
is necessary, and also okay to have someone to pretend that you're a player. Okay, is your staff
yeah,
ready? Are they doing something good? Because they're going
yeah,
to open your account. If you just open an account
yeah,
and pretend to have a problem, they're going to say, okay,
yeah,
you haven't played, or you only made one deposit of €5. So,
exactly. Now
so
you have
that
a lot of data there, and even benchmarking, because I was changing some of the responsible gaming tools at Betson, and then of course I had to go out myself and see what should I do. And the funny thing is that so I did, but if you permanently close down accounts, because this was what I was doing at the time,
Mhm.
later on when I needed an account at Kindred, this also actually explains that they are a very good company. So this I can say because they should be proud of this. So I needed an account because I was their account manager, so I needed to see things. But it was like it wasn't possible because I had closed down the account and written like, no, I'm, I'm a compulsive gambler. And then even then, they had to go through and like fill out some papers and everything to be able to open an account for me, even though that they knew me. And I tried to explain like, no, no, but I was just testing things. And they were like, no, no, no. So I
But
mean that worked really well. But that's also, I mean, it is pretty tricky to see if you want to see like what are the other guys doing and how's that functionality working. I mean, of course you have to permanently close down accounts, you have to
it's
fake game, do all of this.
it's funny because we got the same with BetBlocker. We get
Ah,
you know
yeah,
people that they say, "Oh, I work in the gambling industry, and I
mm,
was just testing BetBlocker. Can you
mm,
help me to deactivate it?"
mm,
And we always take this approach. Okay,
mm.
can you send us an email, or can you, get an
Yeah,
official letter from your company
yeah,
saying, that you
yeah,
were testing? Because one of the things that
yeah,
is quite common, that people in the gambling industry, they gamble
yeah,
sometimes a bit
yeah,
too much, and they end up in trouble. And many
yeah,
people, they're also worried about self-excluding, because
yeah,
okay, if I check your name, imagine
yeah,
you are self-excluded, then it can be, oh, Jenny, maybe you have a problem.
yeah,
uh, I think there's companies that they're very supportive, but there's other companies that may think,
yeah,
okay, you know what, we're just not going to hire you because you can be a liability, or maybe
yeah,
this is not a place for you, or so it
yeah,
can get a bit tricky. So we have heard that before, people that, oh no,
yeah,
actually, I was just testing it because, do you work
yeah,
on safer gambling? No. Okay, what do you do? Oh, I work in something else.
yeah.
We're sorry, but we're
No, it's a
not
very
going
tricky
to.
situation. And I know that there are some in this industry that sort of recovery programs for the industry. And I think, I mean, it makes sense. I think there are also many reasons. Of course, you're close to gambling in this industry, but I've been out in the evening with colleagues, and she had actually self-excluded from the Baltic casino. So she was stopped at the door, and of course, that's a bit of a maybe they haven't told that story yet and everything about that as well. But it's good to see that that was working now as well. That's when they checked in her account. It was like, no, you actually have decided yourself not to go to these casinos. So I haven't seen that in land-based live before either.
Okay, that'll be interesting. You go with your colleagues, because this
Yeah,
sort of thing happens. Oh, like, yeah, we
mm,
have a party in this casino, and
yeah,
then you get a person that, oh no, you have self-excluded, you cannot come
yeah,
in. That's a bit of but there's
yeah,
a lot of stigma, and I think, you know
yeah,
there's the need of a little bit more of compassion,
Yeah,
with colleagues, that may be
yeah,
struggling and all that. I think sometimes, maybe even transitioning to a different industry, because sometimes I don't know
yeah,
if it's uh, conducive, for them. Okay, you work in the industry, you have a problem,
yeah,
maybe it would be healthier to do something else. It can be related,
yeah.
but you can sell
No,
a
I've been
a
thinking that as
CRM,
well.
but not being
Exactly.
24/7 with the sports, with all the slots and all of that. So that can be a little bit
And also
tricky.
seeing money flow around like that. But I think I've been thinking as well that one of the reasons that you gamble if you're close to gambling is one thing. But I also think that since this industry was quite a young industry as well, it's even like you said that you want to do things that are like a little bit bad and exciting. I think as well that a lot of people that came to this industry has a tendency. There are some good things with addictive behavior because it's like people are curious, they're a little bit risk taking, and they want to work. I mean, if you come to the gaming industry, you're not looking for like, for example, I worked for a company where I went to see project management, and then I was sitting there with some guys that were working
Mhm.
on building sites, and they did projects that were 20 years, and I was thinking like, oh my god, how can I work with this in this environment? I need faster. So I mean, the gaming industry appeals to things like fast, risk taking, and like discovery. So I think also some of these things, they are very good things as well that you see, but they are a little bit close to, I guess, to what you think is an
I
addictive.
I think you're right. Not everybody say, "Oh, I'm leaving Sweden to go to an island in the middle of
No.
the Mediterranean." You need to be maybe a bit more risk prone, and maybe this sort of
Yeah,
thing also make you more vulnerable for
yeah, for
for
sure.
other stuff. Uh, I wanted to ask you, because you have been in the industry for a while. How have you seen the evolution in the last 10, 15 years? How the industry have been moving, in terms of safer gambling and other aspects.
It's a very interesting question as well because I think people are much more aware now of these type of problems and thinking about it a lot more. But then what I've seen from the industry is also that I worked mostly with European. Now I work as well a lot more in different places. But if you look at the European, it's sort of like it's not only that our industry has evolved, it's also that we have gotten more customers. We are more visible in all the different countries. So people start to understand that part a lot more as well. So I think there's a lot more insight into the industry. Then again, a lot of regulators they don't understand the industry, but there are a lot more eyes on the industry, and then there are a lot more positive for us and the people that work in the industry. They also kind of understand that there is another side to this, another more human side. So I've seen it evolve in a good way there. On the other hand, I'll be honest that a lot of the responsible gaming tools and these things and the way you talk about responsible gaming, it's also a little bit of like a marketing rather than actually wanting to help people. That's something you see as well. But I think that's also because we still don't really know how to do it in a good way. If everyone really knew exactly what to do, I think there would be a lot more companies that would do that because there are a lot more long-term companies. And you see like the US, for example, I mean, they're not there for 6 months, most of them. They're there to build a sustainable business. So I think with the sustainable business and that the whole industry is becoming a lot more stable, then there is more room and understanding to take care of the less good sides as well. And then it's also the technological side. And when they came up with these reality checks, for example, we didn't think we could build it even. And when you had all the responsible gaming tools, there's also something that the technology was basically RNG and the registrations that were not very complicated. And now you send in data to governments and you can see exactly the gameplay, and there's so much you can see. So, I mean, there has been a lot of evolution, I would say. Not always with the responsible gaming focus. I mean, how much has it been for you that, I mean, I know in different companies you have a different function if you work with responsible gaming. Often you're in the leadership teams as well. And I mean, how much have the discussions
My
changed?
experience is that it varies a lot depending on the company
Yeah,
and on the top of the company. So if you have like
yeah,
sort of a board and C level that they are very conscious, uh, you have a bit of carte blanche to think what you think is right. There's other companies that they just think safer gambling is a nuisance.
yeah,
It's very difficult to do anything if it's not a
yeah,
regulatory requirement. So it is very different depending on the company, and not only the company. I think it's the leadership. Sometimes you may have
yeah,
a person that is very conscious and understand the longer game and sustainability, and then there's other leadership people that they just want to be there 1 2 years, take the bonus,
yeah,
and just
yeah,
move on. And I always say, look, I think like probably it's not an easy job, to be like a chief marketing officer or managing director. You probably have to answer to the board. You have a lot of pressure,
yeah,
but I think this sort of roles should be protected somehow. You should be able to do what you think is right without many constraints. Because in theory,
yeah,
you should be free from any sort of you know constraint, but you can get some constraints that they are indirect, like maybe not getting
yeah,
all the stuff that you need, maybe
yeah,
delays on implementing something that it may be beneficial, or you just get the no when it's, oh, we need this software because the algorithm is really good, and it's like, no, let's do it in
yeah.
house, like,
Yeah, and I think as well there's always this balance in an industry, and I don't think it's talked about a lot. But I mean, you have that balance, but you also, I think, it's very good to try and understand the parts that are not so good in your industry. And I don't know, it's always intrigued me as well to understand what happens with the gambling. But one thing I wanted to ask you actually is two questions. One, do we as well create like bad behavior as well? So, I mean, is there a lot of this that if we have someone that gambles, that we actually trigger a lot of behaviors that worsen the situation? Is that something that we find?
I mean, I think again, it probably depends how the companies work. Different companies. I mean,
Yeah,
you can put in an example. Does the barman trigger the
yeah, yeah,
alcoholism response? It depends. You may have.
yeah,
I think mainly, when you have a person that develops an addictive disorder, normally it's because
yeah,
there's some underlying issues. The
yeah,
person is struggling with some stuff that make them more
yeah,
vulnerable, to develop a problem. Then there's the side of the company. Okay, you have a barman and you say, okay, this person have 5 pints. I think
yeah,
it's enough.
yeah,
And this is important, and there have been historical companies that, okay, they don't they don't do many checks, only when it's critical.
yeah,
Okay, we have somewhere in the floor that is passed out, and rather than helping the
yeah,
person is, okay, can you take them out the street? And it's okay. Self-exclusion
yeah,
sometimes doesn't help. Why? Because the person can just go to the
yeah,
next place. So I think it's always a combination of, I mean, again, the companies, they need to behave ethically and responsibly, but also, the people, they need to have their own accountability. So it's a balance.
Yeah,
You cannot say it's all the fault of the companies, or it's all the fault of the player. Look, it's a mix. So this sort of
I
thing.
think when gambling becomes more commonly talked about, it's also going to get better. You see in Sweden, that I follow a little bit more closely, that they're more than having conversations with kids about that and about gambling. And I think that always, like, knowledge is always one of the best weapons when it comes to people's health.
I think, this sort of thing is about informed choices,
Yeah,
and about education. I do agree with you
yeah,
100%. If you say, oh, burgers are bad, if you eat a burger, you're going to
yeah,
die, you know, okay, people may dismiss it, and say, okay, you know what? I think this is BS. You need to give information and trust that people, they may do, good decisions. I say, look, it depends. Burgers are not good or bad. They have this, they have these
yeah,
ingredients. You may get high cholesterol. You may have it this. There's also very different. You get burgers that they're done with frozen meat that is who knows from where, and there's other that may be locally and ethically sourced. Again,
yeah,
probably it's better to eat a salad.
yeah.
But with this sort of thing, I
No, I think
think
it's an interesting thing. And then I have started thinking a lot about, I mean, the fact that gambling, and then the fact that it's online, and the fact that I know you and I have talked about it before, but I've done even more digging in this since the last time we met, about kids and our own internet habits. So I'll tell you what happened since I left there, but I will tell you another story first as well. That so in Sweden, I was following a program, and in, Sweden was kind of communist before as well, much more like, even in Spain, much more like that, not when I grew up and when my parents grew up. So in Sweden, we can only buy alcohol in one shop, but before that you actually had like a book, so you had some kind of allowance to that, because something bad came to society, and then society sort of wanted to um, change that. And that's not how people want to live usually. But there is something interesting, that what they said in this program was that if internet had come at this time, there would have been some counter reaction, like, for example, saying that, so after 8 o'clock internet will be shut down. And it's just interesting that society was trying a lot more before to protect its citizens. And I can also see that the ones that should protect the citizens, that's government, so sort of making sure that there's not marketing to kids, all of these things. But I find it very interesting that a lot of things that we just like accept today, they're actually very harmful and should be partly regulated.
it's a really interesting spot, because, for example, you got and I'm not comparing you know alcohol with gambling. Alcohol is toxic. You drink it and it's
Yeah,
harming you. Gambling, not necessary, because, okay, if you place a bet, your
yeah,
cells then don't suffer
yeah,
any intrinsic harm. Okay, if you do it a lot, okay, you may end up in trouble. But you get supermarkets that say after 10 we don't sell alcohol. I mean, it's a bit different. Why? Because people, they can just have it at home and drink it whenever they want. But I suppose that it should be uh something that we can help with. I mean, I don't
yeah,
know if I told you about this feature, but at BetBlocker we are working, and I promise this was not prepared,
yeah.
or anything like that. We are working with a feature that we call it the scheduler, that is a bit like a curfew.
Ah,
So people can
very good.
decide,
Yeah,
okay, I don't want to gamble from 10 a.m.
yeah,
p.m. onwards, or I don't want to gamble
yeah,
in the mornings while I'm at work.
yeah,
And we think that may help people
yeah,
self-manage a bit better, because it's really
yeah,
difficult to self-manage, even with the phone.
yeah,
Sometimes you're
Yeah.
in a place and you're checking your phone. Oh my god, uh,
No, this is
why
what
am
we
I
talk
checking
about, you and I.
my phone?
Yeah.
So I think it's about giving people the tools so they can plan in advance
Yeah.
what they want to do. Uh,
I think that's a key to a lot of like behavior there as well. And not being an expert in the area, you also could see that, like, if you have self-management tools, then you also notice, like I told you the last time, that I had these notifications on my phone, and what I realized was like, oh my god, I'm spending 30 minutes on Instagram. And what I've done since we met last, I've also taken away now from my phone Facebook, everything like that, because I noticed that I can't even watch a movie without scrolling through my phone. And then I banned roadblocks at home for my kids. I think this will happen a lot now, but uh, different governments are waking up to this. But then when I banned Roblox, I had to look at my own habits as well to be a little bit fair. And then I told my kids, like, so no, I'm going to take away all of this. But no, I mean, there have been so many fights, but I know I'm on the right track because I see with their behavior as well. Because what I saw, I know I should probably not ask my kids at this, but I saw like all the things that you see from like an addict. And I discussed this with my friend that's like the one that's working in psychiatry, that I've seen kids that are young, that are lying, that are becoming agitated, and that just think about and plan their day according to when they can play robots. I mean, these are three signs that are like, for me, this is not good. This is not the right track. So then I decided this. But you know what? I think a lot of people will decide this again. This reminds me so much of the gaming industry, because what happened is that Roblox first existed as a fun game, but then same as, when we as an industry have too much commercial, we just take things too far. This grow a garden game that's become so popular. Fortnite is very popular, but
yeah,
then
yeah.
concurrent users grow a garden, beat that easily. 35% of the ones that play this game, they're under 13. And in this game, you can buy seed packages that basically you can get like higher or lower value from them, which is essentially like a casino game. And that's in that game. I mean,
I
it's completely insane.
look. I work with gambling for a long time, and I know, when I see something, is that okay?
Yeah,
This smell like gambling, may not be technically gambling because of you know the regulator consider that the money
yeah,
cannot be withdrawn or something. But in the gambling industry, we got bash all the time about, oh, children are gambling. And it's, yeah, they're
yeah,
gambling on illegal websites disguised as video games. And it's
yeah,
these sort of features. Okay, if you're an adult and you're over 18
yeah,
and you make informed choices, it's fine. But
yeah,
from my personal perspective, no, to any minor, they shouldn't be sold any
no,
upgrade packages that they're randomized. So, you know, any game they can have a KYC. Okay, what's
yeah,
this game? This, you got your profile, you can take an ID, and then okay, this game, it have the adult way that you
yeah,
can do this upgrade by packs or whatever, and there's the
yeah,
children mode that okay, you have the full game, but you
yeah,
don't need to be monetized because it's a way of exploitation. And
yeah,
I see a lot of reports and
yeah,
studies, and I truly believe when a minor is asked, do you gamble? They say, yeah, of course I
yeah,
gamble. But what they mean is that, okay, I'm buying packs and doing this
yeah,
rather than playing casino, because for
yeah,
any kid, a casino probably is extremely boring compared with
yeah.
the video games. I mean, even for
And it's
me
interesting because
as a
it's like the
yeah,
commercial perspective on that is also super weird, because you also have our industry talking about how we're going to make them interested in playing casino. So you also have the commercial perspectives. Really interesting.
I think. you know, the current, casino, they have this number, because in 10 years,
Yeah.
are these companies, that they're playing, the ones that they're going to generate their own sort of casinified games when the
Yeah.
children's are adult, just
Yeah.
so I don't know how to approach this, but as a parent, it's something that it worries me. And I
Yeah.
think, and I know that, I don't know, like, I think video game industry is like 10 times bigger than music and
Yeah.
movies combined.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think that regulators, actually, there needs to be a gambling or a gaming
Yeah.
regulator, because I think this is completely out of
Yeah.
out of control.
Yeah. It's out of control, and I think it needs to be, even with TikTok, there needs to be much more. It needs to be on a government level that they actually give people very clear tools like this is marketing to kids, so you're not allowed to do this. And this is like you have to have something similar to BetBlocker. You have to have this on Roblox. You have to have, they are starting to get some of these tools, but it's still like you have to go in, like gambling industry was about 12 years ago. You have to go into the game, some complicated things, and then you do that. And then I tried as well. One way of blocking those super failed on my part was that I tried to in our internet to just block different apps, but that didn't work at all because the only thing that happened is that they don't even know what they're doing, but they're going out on the mobile internet instead on their phones. But I also feel a responsibility because I gave my 10-year-old daughter a phone when she graduated from school here. So then it is my responsibility. I've given her something dangerous and I have to monitor that as well. That's something I think for kids that we shouldn't give them all of this without helping them.
I I think, and call me old fashioned, but I think it's a phone. You should be 18 to have a phone,
I'm
and it
thinking
should
so
it should
now as
it
well.
should it should come with a label. This
Yes, like
this
cigarette
device
packs. It's like,
this
yeah,
this device may affect your mental health, because
yeah,
it's not just gambling. Video game is social media, is
yeah,
porn, is
yeah, yeah,
uh, doom scrolling, is viral
yeah,
videos, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
even people that they're much just get
yeah,
sucked in, and maybe technology should be technology for good. Okay, you need to make a
yeah,
device that has the best interest of the
yeah,
buyer at heart, not to monetize the buyer.
yeah. And it's something that now I think at least research is becoming a bit more clear. I mean, you worked with research, and the problem with research is often that you do research, but it's taken a very long time until things are publicized and that it's been enough. But now you can find these different sources as well. So there was another program that I followed that explained that now the topic was more like has internet died because now it's AI generated content and everything else. But you know what the worst things was? That the conclusion was that no, nobody likes the content anymore because it's not personal on social media, but we still watch and we do it more. So I mean, when you get those type of facts, you really have to start questioning and changing your habit because you realize that so what I'm doing is that I'm consuming shit, but I'm doing it more than I did before. Oh my god.
It's interesting. It's like you put the telly to see the ads. Now you go to your
Yeah,
social media just to see
yeah,
ads. Like
yeah.
it's
Insane. So no, I
I
think once people, it's hard to put a mirror here as well because I have. It was very difficult for me to decide to block Roblox for my kids because it's also social. They talk about it with all their friends, and it seems very harmless. They sit and play together, but I realized that at least for my children, it wasn't. But I think it's hard as well for parents. You don't want to realize certain things, and I think that's something that comes with every addiction. You don't want to realize that your partner is drinking too much. You don't want to, I mean, people around any kind of addiction, the natural thing is to defend it at first, I think.
there's a side that is the enabling. If
Yeah,
they're playing Roblox, it's that,
yeah,
or I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored.
yeah,
So it's a bit like, okay, and I think it's also, for us as parents, we need to be engaged with this type of things. Okay, so you know if you allow your child to play something, you should know
Yeah,
the game, you should know what happened, you should know, how it works, because it's otherwise it's like, okay, like
yeah,
they're in the street and you don't know where they are.
yeah. No, I think that's a very important thing, and to not be too busy to do that. But I also found a few, actually, some tips for to do this. At least for now, it works. Maybe there will be an evil side to this, but you can ask, for example, ChatGPT to summarize a little bit the games, and you can ask them, are there these elements in the game? Are there any randomized things? Are there any parental? So that's a good way of trying to learn a little bit quickly about the topic. So that's something I can recommend to other parents. That helps. But I think the first thing is that dare to start to understand how much time kids spend, because that was when I started seeing how much they actually spend time, and not just looking through different tools, but actually look at, okay, so I let them play now for a bit, and then you start realizing how many hours, because something is still, time still is one of the most important aspects, not what they do, but like if they sit with their screen for this long.
I remember I did play long time Nintendo, the
Yeah,
first one when I was a kid, or I would watch the same movies again and again and again on
yeah,
VHS tapes, and I spent a lot of time. That was a bit maybe mindless. Maybe,
yeah,
the problem here is that, the game has changed. Then, there's a continuous algorithm trying to get something
yeah,
out of someone that is young and vulnerable, and this should be control, and it's it
yeah,
sounds weird, what I'm going to say, but they should, you know all these sort of apps should have limits, like time limits. I don't
yeah.
know if they have time limits. I know that you have settings on your
Not
phone,
really.
but
It's very hard to find these settings in a good way.
mm, and it should be maybe by default. Okay, you have
Yeah,
open an account with social media, and you get your
yeah,
warnings. Okay, social media
yeah,
can,
yeah,
can be good to connect with friends, but also can have some negative consequences.
yeah,
Okay, would you like to have some time limits? Uh, do your due diligence. Okay, I have to show
yeah,
my ID, so this is who I
yeah,
am.
yeah,
Okay, I'm not going to get anything that is inappropriate. The algorithm is going to treat me, in a gentler
No, I think
way.
exactly what should be needed. That's and when you start thinking about it, that it doesn't exist today, then you really start to think like, wow, there's such a big hole here that they have nothing. It's really like it's completely without safety net. And I know I sound
I
like a super moral person. I'm not. I used to play Nintendo as well. I used to do that, but they are so much more addictive today, the games, because they're so much better at marketing. So it's really not the same thing.
I know that Nintendo have the parental controls and all of that, and you get
Yeah,
notifications on your mobile, this sort of thing. I'm a bit, you
yeah,
know, I feel that is maybe a safer platform.
yeah,
Uh, but again, when you have all the stuff, I think maybe is a bit riskier, and I think it's also important, that games, they're not endless, because I don't know,
yeah,
when again, when I was a kid, I'll play a video game and then you finish, and then you
yeah,
finish all your video games 10 times and you get bored and it's okay, I'm
yeah,
going to do something else. But I think
yeah,
sometimes, like the endless scrolling, it should be good that
yeah,
you have an option. So okay, I just want to see the updates from my friends. You see 3 updates, that's it. There's no
yeah.
more updates, or there's no more
No, and I
videos
think
for
that
you.
I remember as well when it happened that internet kind of became too big, because I remember that when I was working in one of my first jobs, I was doing customer support, like IT support, and then I was waiting a lot because I like to work at nighttime. And at that time, there was no Facebook yet, so the only thing I could do was to scroll to different newspapers and some blogs. And then at the end, I got bored and I had a book instead. This would never happen today. There's like endless to just scroll it. There's no end to internet in a way, and that's very scary as well. That you can just find new things, and how it happened very quickly as well. That I mean, we went from having television. I think it's the same in Spain, that you kind of you watch something and it was no commercials, because Spain also had this. Like, and now it's like Netflix just rolls and rolls and rolls. You never have to push anything. There's nothing happening,
Well,
and
it requires an effort to stop doing it. It's not like,
yeah,
would you like to watch the next episode? Are you sure? Because you have watched 4 episodes
yeah,
in a row. Maybe,
exactly.
it's 3 a.m. and you're a bit tired. No,
Yeah.
just the next episode in 3 seconds. One, two, three.
Yeah.
Oh, well, has
Yeah.
started
And
already, so I
when
better
you
watch
think
it.
about that, it's insane that we don't have more controls, like you said, that this has just not been regulated. For example, that, okay, so no media, it shouldn't be like this. For example, when you start to really think about it, I'm becoming almost like a conspiracy theorist, because I'm really, when you realize how much of this, or for example, why are we even allowed? I know this is also super controversial, but why are we even allowed to have like a phone in a car if we're not needing it? For example, all these devices, they also follow us, and there was literally no regulation on what you do. But today we have the tools, so you could have, for example, you don't even need to. I don't think you need to take the kids' phones for the school. You could even have like a block on the school that there's no internet there, for example. But we don't. We open the door instead to these dangerous things. So we give them. In here in Malta, my daughter just got a laptop from the school, and I'm thinking, is that really what she needs? A laptop?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, this sort of thing. You have a signal jammer, you know,
Yeah,
and it's jam, at school, so it
yeah,
doesn't matter if you have your phone. It's out of
no.
service. That'll be interesting. One of the
Has there
things
been
that
any discussion in Spain, by the way, about doing any kind of shutdowns, or like putting any kind of regulations?
I think the first country to look into this that I know was Australia. I think they wanted to put a blank
Mm,
ban on phones and, oh no, sorry, on social media until 16.
yeah,
I think look, this is a good
it's good.
thing. I think,
It is.
I'm sorry to be the old fart, but I think it's a good thing. Before, when you were, talking about the book, it's something that, it's sad because, for
Yeah,
example, you had the old internet and you get bored, and I think it's important to get bored, and then you start reading a book, and maybe
yeah,
the book is talking, I don't know, about Manhattan, and then I'm going to Google Manhattan,
yeah,
and you get the curiosity. Now it's a bit like the algorithm try to find something that, you know will get your interest. Okay, this is not okay. I'm just going to give you something a bit more shocking. Maybe you look at me. It's a bit like, you
yeah,
know trying to, and it's a bit like, you know
yeah.
a boredom. I
It's much.
think it's
Yeah,
important is when the ideas come.
and they're not used to it. So now my daughter again, she's taking the school bus now, and she hates it. Why? Because she has to wait for half an hour. And it's like she has never waited for anything without a phone in her life. And then I mean, I'm thinking that this is the healthiest thing ever, because, like you mentioned, you should just be able to sit and stare. And I notice with myself as well that I have so many weird behaviors around this. So when you start thinking about it, like for example, I don't know what it is like for you, but if I plan to walk somewhere, then I have to like download a podcast to listen to, and I have to like start some app to track my steps, or I can just walk. I mean, it's like I can't go out for a run for half an hour without having something in my headphones. And of course, you should be able to do that, but it's really
Mm.
weird, and it almost scares me to go for a walk without. listening to something.
It's interesting. It's a bit like we start getting the phobia or
Yeah,
anxiety of being with our own thoughts. It's okay. I
yeah,
need to be
yeah,
entertained, you know. So if I'm going to,
yeah,
you know, because I do listen to a
yeah,
incredibly amount of podcasts, you know, and
yeah,
the reality is like, oh my god, you know, is this necessary? Do every time I'm driving, every time I'm having a walk,
yeah,
every time go to the gym, I have to have music, you know,
yeah,
and it's okay. So you always have to have something on. Okay, if I'm honest, I think normally in the morning when I take my dog for a walk on the beach, I got this habit of, okay, I leave all my
yeah,
technology at home. Very, very rarely I take the
yeah,
phone, only when okay, I need a call or I have a reminder for
yeah,
something. But I just find it, really like, okay.
yeah.
And, sometimes it's, oh, but what if something happened? Okay, you know what's going to happen in the beach? Like,
Exactly,
and a kraken is going to attack me, or I'm going to
exactly. It's
look,
like,
if I get bitten by a shark, the phone is not going to do much anyway.
no, we have so many defense mechanisms for why
Mm.
we need this. So, but when I took Facebook from my phone, before I did, I was like, yeah, but I bet to be able to check events and the messaging and all this. And now, when it's not there, and I can, of course, go into my account on the desktop, the only thing I want to check is that the kindergarten that my little one goes to, they post pictures. So I want to check that, but I can do that once per day. So now I realized as well that I'm paranoid. It's like I can't be without these apps as well. So no, it's and the thing is that it gives so many possibilities to exploit me. That's what I realized, that if my phone knows where I am all the time. So no, I'm not, I think I should be able to control it. So I don't think I have to get a simple phone, but then probably you that work with this is always like the first step is that you think you can control it. But I think there is an element of like, if you constantly monitor yourself a little bit at least, then you know what you're doing. So if
Do
it really
you do you mean I can stop anytime I want?
yeah, it's that's the most clearly like I can stop. That's oh god, yeah. Oh
Uh,
no, it's
you know, one interesting thing that you hear sometimes, and is this sort of you know evolution. Because sometimes you hear people that, oh yeah, like gambling companies, they have armies of psychologists, and say, I think
mm,
I'm the only psychologist that
yeah,
or
yeah,
maybe there's a few more people, and they're not thinking about how to make the products more addictive or anything. Just people do just, okay, it's like evolution. Okay, you get this
yeah,
product that sells more, okay, let's make more things like this. But
yeah,
I never have seen like an evil department, or, oh, how are we going to make this more addictive? They got behavioral scientists to get, it's like,
mhm,
look, I just have people that they're just having ideas, sometimes really bad ideas, but it's a bit like the
yeah,
product evolve itself.
yeah, yeah. And then faster and faster and fighting for attention. And this is one discussion I've heard a lot as well in the gaming industry now, which makes me also think about it in that way. And that's the fact that don't focus on the money, focus on the time. So make people spend more time on the casino. And then I realized as well that what am I to be afraid of? It's like when people take my time, not necessarily my money, but like the
Mm.
time especially. So it is an interesting thing. And now I mean, nobody's evil when they come up with something, and everyone, of course, thinks that what they are doing is like a positive, fun thing. I mean, people are not evil in this industry. They want to have good casinos, but they want to make money by an entertainment product. I mean, that's not in a sense harmful. But when you become too good at something, that's when it becomes harmful, I guess. So that's the
I think
balance.
there's this sort of enshittification
Yeah,
of things. Okay, you get something that in principle is a good idea, and then it
yeah,
gets worse, 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 and worse, and then there's no way to
yeah,
escape from it.
yeah, yeah. And then I think as well that I think the one thing that I didn't realize before is that the fact that it's online, the sort of internet aspect of gambling is more dangerous than I figured before. Before it was more like, okay, it's the casino, it's the game itself. But now I realize that it's more the fact that it's accessible, that it has like that we have things that are available all the time, that it's more that functionality that scares me now than the actual gambling itself.
What do you mean? I don't think I fully.
So I mean that if you people are often afraid of gambling, but it has existed through time and it has worked out somehow. I mean, you can definitely, you've always seen addiction, but now I think the problem is not only the game, it's the fact that that we have some things on the internet and we have these shiny things and it's like the sports and it's taking up so much space. So before I was more afraid of the gambling aspect, like you gamble and you lose money. That's not great. But now I'm more afraid of the fact that instead of doing other things, it takes up time. You watch streams about how other people are making money. You know, it's more the
Yeah,
whole thing. It
yeah.
has grown. And that scares me more now than the
It,
actual gambling part.
it's a bit like the whole time-consuming
Yeah,
thing. Again, before it's
yeah,
okay. You may suffer from financial harm, but that's okay. You also
yeah,
suffer from the depletion of all the stuff that you're not doing because
yeah.
it's a time-consuming activity.
But when you look at the people that are problematic gamblers that you have spoken to and work with, I guess they often have different places where they put their sort of addictive release, and they often do a lot of things that are harmful. But I mean, what do you find that makes them better to feel? What helps people?
What helps people
Hmm.
to overcome gambling?
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, it sounds a bit, but I just think deal with, the underlying issues. So if
yeah,
you're anxious, okay, you need to deal with the anxiety. If you have suffered from
yeah,
trauma or a difficult, you need to deal with that.
yeah,
It's be like, okay, you can do other stuff to put it on pause. But it's
yeah,
like the pause work less and less.
yeah,
You can pause your feelings, but your feelings catch up with you. My The way I see is like, look, uh, the mental health is the main problem, and if we don't
yeah,
help people, like in general, then they're going to harm themselves. It can be
yeah,
gambling, it can be roadblocks, it can be, this sort
yeah,
of thing. Okay, maybe kids, they don't have a big problem, but the problem that they have, okay, maybe boredom. Okay,
yeah,
it's okay. You deal with the boredom by being bored. We're very bad
yeah,
at it ourselves. But it's like, okay,
yeah,
it's okay to be bored.
yeah.
So
No, but that's a
I
very good thing.
yeah, I don't have an easy answer, but with this sort of thing, I think, okay, you can create a habit,
Yeah,
but mainly it comes from discomfort. And it's just okay. I have to
yeah,
be on the plane, and then on the plane you don't have Wi-Fi, and you know
yeah.
uh,
It's
okay,
a
read a book.
yeah, and I think that what you said as well, that one thing I've noticed that if you self-regulate, I think as well that I mean I could very well be, I could definitely have an addictive personality. But what you try and do is that to remember to have positive things. And I read this as well when it comes to children, for example, to remember that don't focus on the negative, focus on what did you do today that was great, instead of focusing on the fact that they're not allowed to play Roblox, for example. And like you mentioned, it's like helping humans build a more happy foundation from the start.
Mm. And it's tough, for a parent, because okay, you're having a fight, perhaps with
Oh
uh,
yes.
with all the rest of the parents. Would be amazing, if you can
Hmm.
have a meeting with all your child's friend and say, okay, you know what? From next Friday, there's no more Roblox.
Yep.
So when they go to school, they're not left out. Oh, see you later on Roblox.
Yeah,
So I
that
think
would
this
be the
sort of
best.
thing, it's very tough, you know.
Yeah, it is. And everyone has their own journey. I think that's the thing as well, even with other types of, I wouldn't say addictions, but I think parents are partly addicted to allowing their kids to have video games. And with any type of addiction, everyone has their own journey. Everyone is different. Some kids might like really be able to control this. And so, I mean, there's always your personal journey and everything of this, and you have to do what's right for you. But one thing that's would help as well is that every time, and that's what I think about gambling as well, every time you realize that okay, this is really not working out for me,
Mhm.
that you actually have someone to help you. I think that's also, I mean, bet blocking also that you have these helplines so that if you actually realize things are not going well, there's someone there for you.
You know, it's very interesting because I was thinking about that. That actually there's not a helpline for that. So imagine that was a helpline to help parents that
Yeah,
they want to have a healthier or help their children to have a healthier
yeah,
relationship with technology. You know, I bet that that helpline will be not non-stop ringing. Okay, what can I
yeah,
do to, you
yeah,
know, maybe start limiting a little bit the time, or and with
yeah,
all things, because sometimes, you know, be like families sometimes they're a bit not that structure, you know. Okay, you know, how can I get, okay, you can always go to
yeah,
chat gpt or to whatever, but maybe we're missing a bit like
yeah,
the community thing, you know, like okay, you know.
yeah.
Mm.
And that's very clear as well from my friend that works with troubled kids, that often parents are calling and they want maybe someone to have a diagnosis for something, but what they actually often need is just a little bit more structure in the family and some help with that. They don't need a paper, they don't need medication, they just need a structure that works better for that family, and that's good that you can actually help people.
You know, that's really, you know, interesting that you mention, you know, medication, because a bit of a medicalization of everything. Okay, you know, if you're maybe
Yeah,
having a withdrawal from, I don't know, video games, or you
yeah,
know, and I'm fond of video games. You know, I don't want to be a video
yeah,
game basher or anything like that.
no,
Okay, so if you're not used to focus and you know to pay attention, because every
yeah,
20 seconds you have a new video on TikTok. Okay, how are you going to focus for 1 hour listening to a
yeah,
teacher that is probably quite boring? You
yeah.
know,
No,
and
it's
then
never going to work.
the solution for that is, okay, yeah, have some Ritalin, you know, it's
Yeah,
amphetamines. It's to be like,
yeah,
you know,
ah,
maybe
exactly.
some, you know, exercises or something
Hmm.
will be more helpful, you know. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no, it's hard.
yeah, it's
But I think that we will become better because that's something as well. I mean, mental health is much more talked about today. So I think as humans, we are at least improving the way we view these things, and like throughout history, that people are not just hysterical if they're depressed and everything. But yes, I worked for AstraZeneca as well, and I know these CRQL studies, for example, for the antidepressants. I mean, it's a lot of money that goes into this. I can tell you one thing there, that's probably at the end of this, but when I was working for a pharmaceutical company,
mhm.
they were not the good guys either. So that's a very, yeah, that's also like the gambling industry. I mean, the industries I worked in, there are some that are better, but definitely there are also industries that are almost worse.
Yeah, you know, I think when the person, you know, the you should have, you know, I know that, and it maybe goes back a bit what you said, that maybe before, you know, things were a bit more common, you know, and say, okay, we're going to the go here is the well-being of the person. You know, sometimes you
Yeah,
get things right and sometimes you get things wrong.
yeah,
Look, I'm not advocating to have like a drinking ration, card, and you go there and you get your stamp to get
Yeah.
a beer. Maybe
Yeah.
education and reflection and a bit of a different way, to
Yeah.
educate ourselves and our children is the way forward. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And then good thing, I mean, what BetBlocker is good, but it's also about remembering that you kind of bring joy. And that's also even for the gaming industry to remember that the gaming industry, it's fun. And as long as like you bring joy and you're not focused on just taking things, I think that things work better. So you should, if most humans remember that I should give and take, then these things usually get resolved.
Awesome. So, Jenny, really nice to speak with you. I've been like 1 hour, and have
Yeah,
been
it went by
fantastic
fast.
to catch up with you. So, thank you
And
very
I will
much,
see you at
and
ICE, I think, as well. Next
I,
time I will
sh-
see you at ICE.
I shall see you at ICE in person. Okay.
Perfect.
Take
Wonderful.
care. Bye bye.